We're here with Mel Shumway. He is running for Lincoln County Commissioner. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mel.
Okay, I'm Mel Shumway and a candidate for Lincoln County Commissioner. I'm a Valley boy. I grew up here, grew up south of town on the dairy farm, so I've done my share of hay bales and sprinkler pipes. But it really ingrained a good working ethic for myself. I value family so much. Family is so important to me. I'm excited to be in this race. I would love to lend my expertise and my experience to the county commissioners. So I have a varied background. My passion is natural resources. I have come from an agriculture background, but natural resources for the past 30 plus years has been one of my passions. Invasive species, I've developed a business around that, and I run a vegetation management business. So I get to work daily in industry, infrastructure, and invasive species, and I get to travel this great county from Alpine to Opal on any given day. So I've really been excited to enter this race and bring my expertise to the county commissioners, and I would hope that my leadership, my experience, and my cooperative nature is going to be an asset to the commission.
Perfect. Okay, I guess with that being said, ideas about Star Valley's infrastructure with all the new building development.
Building developments, yeah. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's no secret that housing is tight and housing is expensive. 2023, the medium home price in Lincoln County is $485,000, and that's a steep ask for young families. That's a steep ask for entry-level workers. I'm concerned that we need some more affordable housing. So what can the commission do? Work closely with the zoning and planning. We are fully staffed on the zoning and planning finally. We've got a good director, I've understood, has been hired and ready to hit the ground running. We've got large projects in Kemmer, Afton, Thane, Alpine, to the tune of a couple of hundred homes in each subdivision. Multi-housing, multiple housing might be the answer to some of it. It might be some low-income zoning. There might be creative ways that we could work with industry or some of our special districts like hospitals, schools, to maybe help offset some of the cost of living, to get a new teacher hired to move to here. We might need to help subsidize some of their housing. I think it would be fantastic if we could utilize the building trades like they did for the schoolhouse that they built this last 2 years at the school district, and maybe utilize some of those for trades for the students in lieu and build for maybe some new teachers to come in. I know Sublette County's done that. They've looked at that in other counties. But yeah, housing and infrastructure. A big concern also is water. We need to protect our water. I think we have a beautiful, wonderful river running through the middle of Star Valley, but I think it's in peril. It's prone to contaminants. It's prone to overuse. I know that there's some wells in some low-lying areas that are in peril from some septic systems. I think we need to look very strong onto our septic systems and make sure we're using the best available science to help mitigate some of the hazards that may come up with that. But yeah, housing and the infrastructure, we just got to find ways to work together, and I don't think there's an easy answer, but I think there's ways to move towards to help that.
So do you have any ideas to help with that, or just kind of see how everything goes?
Well, as I mentioned, I would maybe like to look at some subsidized or stipend housing from some industry. I know that there's been some creative stuff down there from Teton Truss and the little development in Etna that they've been able to let some employees get it moved into them. They're starter homes. It's a way to get a stake going and get ahead in life. Maybe perchance helping out with some offset stipends from some of our districts like hospitals and schools I mentioned. we desperately always need new teachers. We also need hospital workers. We need entry-level workers for our trades. I know Aviat's clamoring for workers there, so maybe get creative and see if there couldn't be something that they could help out to entice workers to come in. Make sure our planning and zoning's on board with moving some of these into some zoning areas for some multiple housing. So there's just a few ideas, but it's going to be a challenge.
And in that vein, as far as infrastructure, when we see this influx of people coming in, roads, stores, services, what's kind of what is your idea on ways we can enhance that? Because I mean, as it is, it's, you know, you call for a doctor, you get a doctor's appointment, you're looking at 2 months.
Yeah,
you know,
doctors. I mean,
or tires or what, you know, whatever.
You're 10 to 15 days out for an oil change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there's no question that our population has increased in this valley, and a lot of the people that have moved in as of late, we demand these services and we deserve these services, but it's hard to catch up. Roads is one. I mean, the impact of extra travel on roads is going to deteriorate the roads. We do have, it's kind of, again, a double-edged sword. The increase of property values increases revenue, increases the revenue back to the county for road and bridge, for example. But it's kind of chasing our tail that it's hard to keep the maintenance up when things are wearing out so fast. I think that some of these developments are going to have to pull some of their own weight for a while to help the county get caught up with them. So I don't know if there's an easy answer for that or not, but the big things to me is water and sewer. Some of our small subdevelopments, minor subdevelopments as they're termed, you know, these 4 to 5 lots being broke off in a 10 or so or a 20-acre piece. It might be high time to look and see if we shouldn't be doing a communal well for those 4 or 5 lots instead of punching a well on every lot. I think that's a little short-sighted. I don't think our water is an infinite supply, even though we seem to think so through February, March, when the snow is knee-deep and we're tired of it. But as we roll into the summer months, our water can be stretched and taxed. And so I think we need to find ways to make sure we're conserving for the future, protecting that water table, and able to serve future needs for our water.
And on the opposite end of that with sewer, what are your ideas about expanding that or improving that as far as what we're going to need to work with?
Yeah, I know that a lot of the municipalities have some pretty aged sewer infrastructures. I know Afton is pretty much stretched to where they're going to probably have to add some facility to the ponds. Star Valley Ranch, they probably should have been moving towards a solid waste facility years ago. But I think they're going to be forced to as they get built out and reach capacity. It's really going to tax the environment to have that many sewer systems. So solid waste facilities, that's going to be so terribly expensive. But I think it's something that has to be seriously looked at to perchance save some of our waters and rivers that might be in peril. I know that there's newer and more stringent septic systems available. I would like to make sure that as we run through our planning and zoning, that we're in lockstep with, say, our conservation districts that understand the water and the waterways and maybe some other entities in the county. That we're all kind of on the same page as far as what it's going to take to protect our waters. And it might be enhanced sewer systems, which are a little more expensive to work with. But I think in some of these low-lying areas, I think it's going to be absolutely necessary.
Where will we get the funding for that? What are your ideas for that?
Is it the government's job to fund septic systems on a new build for a private house? I think it's going to fall to either the developer or the builder or the landowner.
Well, okay, so what about like the ponds? What about that?
Those
then?
are municipal. Those are municipal. Coming up on the ballot is probably the 1 cent additional sales tax that we've read and seen about. I think it was on the Independent front page today or yesterday, whenever it come out. That's designed for municipalities and communities to tag onto for capital improvement projects, whether it's streets,
Gotcha.
infrastructure, things like that.
Okay.
That's what that is designed to do and to work with. So as they earmark funds for capital improvement projects, they can tap into that 1 cent increase in tax, the sixth penny, if you may. And once that has reached the encumbered monetary value, that will sunset, so it's not ongoing in that community. But it's a way for communities to help out, and I know that several, Brian Muir and Kemmer, he's for it. Kemmer is poised for big things, and they're going to be struggling probably a little bit more than even Star Valley is as far as housing and stuff, because they just have not seen that increase in the people, and they're really kind of behind the curve, and there's some big developments poised to go into Kemmer.
So speaking of Kemmer, well, let's just jump into the power plant, because since we've got our nuclear power plant that is going in, and housing is probably going to be a big thing, because we're going to have workers and everything that are going to work there, where they're living. Jerry mentioned something last night about like a transportation system somehow to get people from here to there, maybe, or what?
Yeah, have you drove by the Natrium construction site yet?
Haven't
It's
yet.
pretty exciting.
Is
There's rigs a rolling and there's dirt a flying, and it's pretty exciting. It's south of Kemmer, a few miles. But the influx of workers needed for that, anywhere from 750 to 1,000. It's hard to really pin that down exactly, but it's a big
Yeah.
jump.
Yeah.
I'm through Kemmer 2 or 3 times a week. Don't go take your camper out and try to get a spot in an RV park. It's full. There's a lot of workers going on. The Exxon Mobil project up north has got 850 workers out there working around there now. So, yes, with these new industry coming into the South Lincoln area, it's going to be very critical to get the infrastructure up. I like the idea of maybe a mass transit to help shuttle workers back and forth. We've seen that for years with INL out of Idaho Falls out to the laboratory.
Yep.
And I mean, they run big charter buses back and
Yep.
forth there. How long that's going to take to get fully ramped up and then settled into jobs, I don't know. It's going to be a number of years. There's a lot of permitting processes along the way for Natrium. On the flip side, I do work with Naughton Power Plant for Pacific Corp, and I'm in and out of that power plant several times a year, and know the principals and the managers and the assistant managers, the environmental department quite well there. They're still cranking out power there. They did get one of the turbines converted to a natural gas, which is exciting. We do have a good supply of natural gas in this county and in the surrounding areas. I don't want to give up on natural gas, even though nuclear might be a great option.
Yep.
But we still need our natural gas, even in the light of electric vehicles and such. Electric vehicles don't heat our schools, don't heat our hospitals. We still turn up the furnace, and they're predominantly fired with natural gas. The coal industry is so vital to Wyoming and has been so good to Lincoln County for so many years. We've got to keep that coal mine in Kemmer in business and going. We have a number of industry coming in to look at that, to go coal to different products. It's going to take coal to do that, though. There's some exciting things coming for either soil supplements and fertilizer type things, all the way through carbon fiber. But coal's going to be key for that, so keeping that coal mine viable and going is going to be very critical. Commissioners, we need to be in lockstep with our legislators, our representatives, our senators. We need to make sure that Cheyenne is on board with us, that we want to keep this viable and going. It's not just for coal-fired power, it's for coal-fired products. It's for coal products. It's going to be very exciting to see. It's a big employer in Lincoln County. It would be hard to lose a coal mine with that many people for that many years. So I want to pledge everything I can do as a commissioner to be in Cheyenne, to be in front of the principal people, to make sure that they know that we need this coal mine open and viable, and it's not just for coal-fired power, it's for coal products, and it's going to be exciting.
Okay. What are your top 3 priorities for Lincoln County, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Top 3 priorities. My first was going to make sure we get a planning and zoning director, and luckily we've got one. So
Okay.
thinking along that lines though, thinking as a team, I want districts, I want departments, county departments, I want them cross-trained. That doesn't mean we have to have everybody cross-trained, but we need to have enough viable people that if something happens that we lose some personnel, we have some exodus for other jobs, or we have retirements that hit in waves, it seems like that we have people in place that can help pick up the slack and keep a department rolling ahead. Departments like the planning and zoning, the road and bridge, the public health, people like that we're not going to be stagnated when we lose a key person, that everything just shuts down and stops. So cross-training for county departments, I would really like to make sure that we have a good handle on that. I also want to make sure that we have ways to mitigate and protect our water. As I've mentioned before, I'm a little concerned with some of the systems that are in place now and perchance to go in place. I don't want to be the naysayer and say no on projects, but we just want to make sure we're doing it right and being smart about it. Another top priority would be to make sure we have our critical winter habitat for our wildlife and our big game species protected. It's so critical on this eastern front of Star Valley, and there's parcels out there that are for sale that really probably should be turned into conservation type easements for wildlife mitigation. I don't think we need to put houses on every stitch of ground we can put houses on, and that's probably an unpopular statement, but sometimes we need to take a look at the big picture and think, is this really what we want for the future of our county? So I work daily with industry up and down Lincoln County, and I see the good things that they do to help mitigate for wildlife, whether that's timely or seasonal projects that they do or don't do, whether that's, it was nice to see that the DOT put on those wildlife underpasses from Labarge to Big Piney last year, and that's saved a lot of animals. It's been fun to drive around this spring and see so many twins for the antelope, because they got hit so hard a year or so ago. But it's been really fun to see twins.
Cool.
Most of the times when I see the fawns, they're twins, and it's been fun and exciting to see. So
That's good.
So are you for the conservation easements on public lands, where green environmental groups can come in?
okay,
Get these
conservation
easements.
easements versus conservation leases.
Leases, yeah.
Yeah, different.
Right.
Public lands is public lands, and we're at the mercy of public lands. We're 70% public lands in Lincoln County. Believe me, I work on public lands. I work through the BLM. I serve on that BLM Resource Advisory Council. I see the impact that these conservation leases could have. It will shut down fossil fuels on some of these. It will take grazing off the land if they can go through.
And just even access to public lands by the public.
It could do. It
Yes,
could do. It could go
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
far.
yeah.
It could go that far. I'm a big advocate of grazing done the right way. I've seen it from time and time again. Again, I've mentioned my passion is invasive species. Grazing is a key component for some of these species that we need to control. So, conservation leases as a front, not knowing what the public lands look like and what it is, it sounds attractive, but it's very stagnating, and it really takes a lot of the tools out of the toolbox for land management. So I'm not a big advocate of conservation leases. Conservation easements, different story for private land to save large tracts of unbroken land. If someone has a 1,200 acre piece of land that's surrounded by public lands or public or national forest, I'm all for going into a conservation easement on that to curb the development.
Like REMF does.
Kind of like
Yeah.
the Rocky Mountain
Okay,
Elk
yeah,
Foundation
yeah.
does.
Okay,
Yeah, I've worked with
okay.
them in the past on some projects, and they work well. So conservation easements versus conservation leases. Conservation leases, I'm not a big fan of because I think it really takes some of our tools out of the toolbox. The people clamoring for that typically don't live around our areas and they're not familiar with that. I sit on that RAC board. I sit in there with Andrew Archuleta, the state director for the BLM. They kind of get their hands tied coming from Washington. But being on that RAC and being with other people around the state, it's been helpful that they hear our voices and they hear our concerns.
Good.
Sometimes they can't do anything about it. It's a sad fact that generally large government entities, they're tied to the administrations and they come and go with the whim of the administrations, and that's unfortunate because I think it really stagnates some good management and some good plans when every 4 years they get a change of direction. So
Yeah.
It's good to see that you realize the difference between the leases and the easements.
yes, yeah.
That's
Well,
good,
I've sat
because
in
a
a
lot of
lot of
people- yeah.
meetings for that, the Rock Springs Conservation Management Plan.
So are you working with Harriet Hageman, or
No,
you
no.
don't deal with her at all
No,
as far
I don't.
as that stuff?
I know I
Okay.
don't. I know Harriet quite well. She's doing the good fight. She's done some
Yeah.
great things for the state of Wyoming and for some private landowners.
Yeah.
This was, each field office has the review of their plan, and the Rock Springs one has come up, and that's the one that's been so controversial. And they've actually kind of backpedaled a little bit. We're pushing for, there was option A, they wanted option B. We tried to settle for option C. We really haven't seen how that's going to settle out yet, but I do know that on the board is Mary Tolman. She's a Sweetwater County Commissioner, and she's been quite vocal opposing some of those plans. But it's a battle, it's a fight, especially when agencies are handed mandates
Yeah.
and saying, do it. And a lot of people don't quite understand the way land management goes on large scale landscapes, and that's what's unfortunate. So
Yeah, that's the hard part is you got people sitting behind a desk in a business suit and they're not out, they're the ones making decisions for someplace they've never even been.
right, or outdoor enthusiasts
Yeah.
that really don't understand
Yeah.
public lands in the West
Yeah.
and what they entail, and when they hear of mineral extraction or trona mining or stuff like that, they get all nervous that it's tearing up the landscape, but they don't understand the sheer scale of land that's involved, especially with the Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah.
I mean, you can drive for hours and not run across any development.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There is some, absolutely, but it's not like the perception for the public that it's stripped mined and denuded. It's not. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, is there science involved? I hope so, but is there also sound judgment? Yeah, these companies they want to stay in business. We need them to stay in business, so it's in their best interest to try to be as good as stewards as they can.
Yeah.
But we also need those natural resources to keep our country moving forward.
Yeah.
And on that line, like when the EPA was trying to force their way into making a water treatment plant in Swift Creek a few years ago, and we pushed back against them, what are your ideals and principles about the feds? Like you said, 75+% of Lincoln County is
70% of our
yeah,
county's
it's
public lands.
basically federal public lands.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that
what's-
would be Bureau of Land Management and U.S. Forest
Right.
Service, a smattering of U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and a little bit of Bureau of Reclamation.
And while some of them do good work, there's also some overreach.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's also,
what's your feeling on dealing with that?
It depends on the agency and it depends on the location. I've served on the Grays River Forest Service Collaborative since 2016. We're trying to gently help and steer the Bridger Teton Forest into adopting a little more forest-friendly plans for forest health. We're concerned about catastrophic wildfire. the last few days, we've seen wildfire smoke and haze in our valley. We're awfully concerned that Grays River is such a jewel in the national forests, but we just don't see the management making sure that it's going to be protected. And it's been quite frustrating working with the Bridger-Teton Forest. The Kemmer District's been doing some great projects, and we're proud to work with them. It's been hard to get the Grays River District on board. Sometimes I think the marching orders comes from other areas, which is hard, and it's hard on the local supervisors and the local workers too. They see the need to do the work. Sometimes their hands are tied, and that's unfortunate.
What's your answer to that?
I don't know. We've tried for years to help with some projects. We're still waiting to get a timber sale out of the Tri-Basin area. It was awarded years ago. There's not been a log come out yet. There's a fire break project that we wanted to see done on the Grays River Road, utilizing the river corridor and the road corridor. Take down hazard trees, thin the trees down, make sure that there's like at least a fire break that might be manageable in the event of a catastrophic wildfire. That we might also have a line in the sand that we know is going to help us combat that on either side. So that started about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's close. It's not been approved yet. And ironically, that was brought up from the Forest Service themselves that they would like to do that. So how to get them on board? lots of facts and figures and lots of meetings, and hopefully eventually we're going to find the right people to strike the right chord and get some of these projects done. Sometimes it's a lack of funding, and we can find funding. The commissioners in the past have been gracious to find like some good neighbor authority money, some wildfire mitigation fundings, things like that to help with some of these projects, like getting some environmental impact statements and assessments done, things like that the Forest Service claims that they don't have the capacity or the budget to do. So we've actually helped find some grant money and find some things the commissioners have, the Forest Service Collaborative have. So we're making progress. It's just been slow, but we're not going to give up yet. So.
Okay. Going into, you get elected, how are you going to stay transparent to the community so the community knows what's going on? How do you see yourself doing that?
When I hear transparency, what I think is trust. Transparency doesn't mean anything if there's no trust. The bottom line is trust. We need to trust our elected officials. We need to trust our governing officials. We need to trust our department heads. We need to trust the people we put in place. So, being part of commission, I want to have a united front, that I know that the constituents and the citizens of Lincoln County know that the three commissioners, they have a united goal and they're a united front. They may not always agree, but that we can find ways that we can cooperate, that we can move forward and keep projects moving forward. Transparency and trust. How can you approach Mel as a commissioner? Obviously, there'll be phones. I mean, cell phones, text messaging, emails, that's easy to do. But I would hope that the citizens of Lincoln County know me well enough and can trust me enough that they can come up to me on the street. They can see me in the grocery store, they can see me at the sporting event, and they can ask me questions. They can voice their concerns. They can give me the attaboys, or they can give me the kick in the pants that sometimes people need. So I would hope that transparency and trust is built from the individual up, that they feel like I'm approachable. Are we always going to agree and always get our pet projects done? No, we're not. But can we do so that the big thing is to make sure that the county is moving forward. Budget, it's a huge budget. It's a huge budget for Lincoln County. The budget's just been released. It's up slightly, but that's not surprising in light of recent inflationary pricing. I mean, things have gone up. Things are more expensive. Fuel, tires, lubricants, all the way down to
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
I feel for young families. I
Yeah.
did not realize how expensive a pack of diapers was until we bought a pack for a niece's baby shower.
Yep.
I was shocked.
Yep.
I don't know what the answer for that is, but I do know from a county standpoint, the budget is growing, but the budget is needed. So finding ways to keep that budget as trim and as efficient as possible, finding ways as we move to perchance maybe cap our property tax values, we might see a decline in revenue back to the county. We might have to be prepared for that, to put a little more guidelines and guardrails up on our budget. Speaking of property taxes, I hope people are going to take advantage of the state property tax relief fund. It's designed for people like my mother. It's ideal for that. Fixed income, been in their house since the 70s.
Yep.
Really have not had major improvements. I feel they're being punished for the influx of new money into big homes. It doesn't matter what that house is worth. It's not gonna go for sale. Also, the county has funded a program to help too. So if you've qualified for the state program, chances are you will qualify for the county program. That's live on the website, on the Lincoln County website. I'd encourage people to get on and look at that and make sure that those that need that help,
Yeah.
get them the help and help them fill it out and get some money back. Kudos to Jerry Greenfield with the Treasurer's Department. He went around to many of the senior centers in Thane and Afton and Kemmer and LaBarge, sat down on days and helped people fill out those forms. It's gonna help. It is a rebate program, and we know what rebates are. I give you my money, and if I jump through all the hoops, you may give me a little bit back. But at least it's a start to something.
Yeah.
There's big legislature in Cheyenne for property tax reform, depending where you at, whether it's popular or not. In western Wyoming, it's super popular. Other counties, they're a
Not
little
so
loath
much.
to do property tax reform.
Yeah.
So they've not seen that huge jump. So it's gonna be a battle in Cheyenne, with an election with new representatives and some new senators from the county. Make sure people are informed and putting the people back there that's gonna do the work that we want them to do. So much like I want to do for the citizens of Lincoln County as a commissioner, we gotta be in lockstep with our representatives in Cheyenne. And if it takes trips to Cheyenne, that's fine. Trust me, I'm a driver, I'm a worker. I don't care. I'll go to work. I'll go to work anywhere.
But the Cheyenne didn't do a whole lot this last session. And like you, I'm concerned with my mom. I moved to her 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I got her out of Oregon, which is going down the toilet.
yeah,
Her property taxes have doubled in the last 3 years.
yes, yes.
And she's a widow on a fixed income.
Right, and
So-
she's gonna be in a tough position because
Yeah.
she's not been in her house for 9 years or
Exactly.
25 years
Yeah.
or whatever these caps are gonna come
Yeah.
out to be. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be a little more difficult for people that have not had that long history in their homes.
Would you support that ballot initiative that we are getting signatures on? That'll make 50% of your assessed value tax exempt?
In certain, for some extenuating circumstances, yes. I don't think across the board, probably not. But we've got to be careful how we delve out property tax reform so we don't kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. We've got to have those revenues to keep our schools going and a lot of things. That's where the bulk of property tax goes in the state of Wyoming, is schools. Lincoln County, the property tax, the licensing taxes that is gathered, 66% goes to schools, education. So we got to be careful how we pose that. To take a 50% decrease in that, it's going to be difficult to do.
But that puts money back in people's pockets.
It does.
Then
Puts
sales tax will help pay for stuff, things
It
like
can
that.
do. Yeah, it
Yeah.
can do. It can do. So the 4% cap on the valuation, that's going to slow it down. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of the legislature, if that 50% is going to get through or not. So,
What would you think about, and this is the only thing that California has done good in the last, I don't know how long, since Ronald Reagan came out, Prop 13 that limited your taxes on the assessed value when you bought it.
oh, for the price that your purchase price.
Yes. So if I have a house and my neighbor sold theirs for 8 times what I paid for mine, now all of a sudden I'm getting assessed on the value of their
And
house, which
that's
is
the concern, and that's
yeah.
what the fairness I think is that we've missed, is because it is people that have long established in their homes that haven't done anything, and all of a sudden they're being punished with higher taxes. Where someone comes in and builds next door, puts in a big beautiful home, and the valuation shoots way up. So I think that would be a good idea if we could cap to a purchase price. That was floated a couple of years ago. It didn't get very far in the legislature.
Amazing.
But yeah, I know. But there are counties out there, believe it or not, that like their higher property taxes. There's some big counties with no people in them, and they kind of need some revenue. There's not a lot of industry.
Cheyenne's got $26 billion in a slush fund that they could certainly get part of it back to the people.
The state does.
The state, yes, sir.
State, yes. They've put some good rainy day funds away.
Which is good, but
Which
it's
is
like,
good, but
will it come back to the people?
I don't
Because
know.
it's like you said, it's my money that I give to you, and then you
little
give it
bit
back.
back. If
Hey,
you-
here you go. Here's
Yeah.
here's some for your troubles. You know.
Yeah, I've heard that there's been $2 billion put aside in rainy day funds. So that's a lot of money.
There's 26.
That's a lot.
There's 26 billion.
Yeah,
in
the
a slush
legislature
fund.
put $2 billion last session.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah,
last session. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a good chunk of change.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That could do a lot getting back into a lot of people's pocket on some, if they're willing to do some kind of rebates for people that have been here a long time. Hey, if you're a taxpayer,
if you're a taxpayer,
how about some money back?
I think some valuation caps to slow it down. Find some programs to get some relief for long-term residents. I still like to go back to that purchase price, but that's going to be a hard sell. That's going to take a constitutional amendment to do that, and that's what's so difficult with this property tax reform, is it's all tied up in state statute, and it has to go through constitutional stuff sometimes to get any reform. We can play around the edges, but it's really hard to come in and cut because it's all state statute, and it's difficult to do.
If the people voted in, though.
If the people want to do that,
Because at that tax meeting 2 years, or I think it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago in August, up in Alpine,
Yep.
they were saying, "Hey, man, we didn't, we have a shortfall. Gosh, all this stuff." Well, if the commissioners and if the legislators didn't see that the Biden administration was going to cut oil leases and they were going to cut back on all this, and that there would be a shortfall in money coming in.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be in office because they should have seen that coming and made
should
some.
have seen that coming. Yeah. When our mineral severance taxes get cut in the state, that's what hurts, because we've lived on that for so long. We've just not had the population in Wyoming, which we've been proud of, but we kind of pay for that at times. So
It's a double-edged sword. It's a
it-
good and a
it
bad
is.
thing.
We always hear, well, Wyoming has the most government, the most state government of any state in the union. I'm going, no, you kind of misspoke. The most per capita, probably. But every state needs a certain minimum standard of governmental workers to keep the state moving forward. But when you're comparing a state with 4 to 6 to 10 million people and a state with 600,000 people, it looks
Are we even
like
at
ours.
600,000 people
We may
yet?
not be.
Yeah,
might
I don't
be
even think
generous.
so.
They
Yeah.
finally take
545,
the-
60,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
They might take the census on the 4th of July weekend when all the families in town. So,
Yeah,
But,
that helps.
yeah, do we have a large state government? We do, but sometimes it's just a minimum we need. I think there's ways that the state could trim and cut back, just the same as the county can trim and cut back. but whose department and who wants to be on the chopping block. So that's it. They're not popular, but budgets are real. Budgets are a concern. Budgets are getting so big, it's so easy to lose some of the small details in budgets. That's why I think it's critical to have good people in office. And I know we do in the Treasurer's Department. I've visited with them there. They know what's going on with our money. They want to know where our money's at and what it's doing. I want to make sure that as we do business across the county, that these companies we're doing business with are ethical, moral, and financially sound.
And American.
And I want to make sure that contractors coming into the county are being conscious of what they can do to make sure they're being good stewards of our county's money, or of a municipality's money, or even a new entity's money. It's just good business practice. We talk about the Code of the West, which is fun to read on the website, on the Lincoln County website, but the bottom line is I want to treat people with respect, and I want people to feel like they're valued, and I want to make sure that we're being good neighbors to everyone in the county. So
Okay. What do you bring to the table that you think would be more beneficial than your opponents?
what I bring to the table, I bring a passion, I bring a hard work ethic. Those that know me, they know I work. I get projects done. I tend to under promise and over deliver in my business and my work ethic, and that's just the way I've done it for years. I bring leadership. I feel like I have the qualities of a leadership that I can visit with people, I can cooperate with people, I can listen to their side, and I can form opinions, and we can move forward. Experience. I've got tons of experience. I've spent 20 plus years as a territory manager for various companies in sales, so I've been to all the fun sales seminars. I've done the classes, they're fun. You learn a lot. There's a lot of self-introspection once you go through some of those. So I know my strong suits, and I know my weak points too. And my weak points that I can rely on others to help bolster me up. So it's important to keep that in mind, that you may not know everything, and I know I don't, but I want to be able to cooperate and move forward. I just don't want stagnation and finger pointing, and I want cooperation, and I want to move forward. And I think we deserve experience in the business world, experience about the county, how it's laid out, where the communities are, what's the community's concerns, right down to what's the worst county road in your community, and what can we do? County roads have come up a couple times. Population centers tends to get the bulk of the work, but I would like to maybe see if we couldn't prioritize and maybe end up in some of the further stretches on the other ends of the county that don't have the population, but they deserve to have a good, safe road too. So that's been brought up in other communities, so that's been kind of fun to visit with them.
As far as cooperation and getting things done, what would be, can you give us an example of one of the maybe major things, or one of the things you're proudest of that you've worked with people to get, maybe a conglomerate of people together to get a project done?
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't put much thought into that. But I know through our collaborative on the Grays River Forest Service Collaborative, that's been a challenge to keep the cooperation going there. And we've walked away from the table a few times.
In what ways?
In what ways?
Yeah.
Because we've heard that we don't have the funding, we don't have the capacity, when we know that some of these federal agencies do. It's just that they may not want to take the time to do it. So we've been able to find, the Tri-Basin sale's a good one, because the Trout Unlimited got involved with that and was able to take some of the monies, and we got some fish passages on some culverts passed, improved the roads, ready for the log trucks to roll. And the Forest Service initially was pretty stagnant and didn't want to do anything, but we went out and found other partners and some other fundings be part of that, and that was a pretty good success rate there. That was a pretty good success story. Seeing some of the BLM work, they're doing some stream mitigation and stream restoration on Muddy Creek in LaBarge, and it's sorely needed. Streams and rivers deteriorate, and without maybe a little chance to get things back to the center, it's hard to improve them. So the BLM's been pretty good working with some landowners up there. I'm trying to think of some other instances. I'm just kind of drawing a blank, though.
No, those are good examples. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have anything else? Any other questions? Okay. We'll just, I think we covered pretty much everything. If you have anything else to say, and wrap it up and what you think you can
I appreciate
do.
I appreciate the time here.
Absolutely.
As I said earlier, I'm excited about being a county commissioner. It's been a dream of mine. It's been a passion of mine for a number of years. I love this county. I love the West. I love Wyoming. I want to see it thrive. I want to see it survive. Not only survive, but thrive. I'm deeply rooted with family and faith and love of my country. Without the support of my family, much of what I do would not be possible, and quite frankly wouldn't be worth it. So I appreciate the support that I get from them. The support from the county as I go around, from the citizens and friends up and down the county, has been valuable and encouraging to me. So I'm excited, I'm enthused for the next 20 plus days as we wind down to the August 20th primary. I know you've got some choices, you have some decisions, but keep in mind that no one's going to outwork Mel. He loves to work. He's people oriented. I'm not afraid of the fight. I would just ask for your support and vote in August 20 primary. So thank you.
So to add on to the primaries, can you tell everybody that how important it is to go and vote in the primaries, because that is a huge impact on voting.
We discussed that earlier about how the percentages really tell off in a primary, because people are not maybe that concerned about which candidate gets in, and then they wait for the general elections. Mm-hmm. So, but it's super important for the primary to make sure the people that your values and that your culture aligns with to get in past the primary, because there's one seat open, there's 4 candidates. State Senate, state legislature, multiple. Everyone has a race except for Byron. He's unopposed, but be informed. Make sure you know who the candidates are. Make sure you know a little bit about their background. Make sure you know what they're standing for. But the primaries are important. I mean, they determine the course of the general election, so it's super important.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you for your time, Mel, and we appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.